Why did Jesus just stop Peter in the middle of a question and refuse to explain what was going to happen to John? It's got to be one of the most puzzling, most mysterious moments in the Gospels. Just picture it. The air is still, the waves are just whispering against the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and the breakfast fire has burned down to embers. Jesus has just restored Peter, giving him this huge calling: feed my sheep and follow me. But then, Peter looks over his shoulder. He sees another disciple there in the morning light, and he asks a question that, if we're honest, echoes in our own hearts all the time. Lord, what about him? It's such a simple question, right? But it reveals this deep human ache inside all of us, and it's so worth digging into why Jesus answers the way he does.
I mean, the whole scene is just so charged with emotion. Peter has just been publicly forgiven and put back into ministry after that devastating denial. His future is now clear, but it's intense. He's going to suffer and die for Christ's name. It's this incredibly heavy, incredibly holy moment. But as Jesus starts walking, Peter's focus, it just shifts. He turns his head and he sees the other disciple following them, the one the text just calls the disciple whom Jesus loved. And right there, in that one glance, you can feel comparison starting to creep into his heart.
Now, what's so fascinating about this other disciple is his resume of quiet intimacy with Jesus. This is the one who leaned against Jesus' chest at the Last Supper. He's the one who stood at the cross when pretty much everyone else ran away. He even outran Peter to the empty tomb. He's a witness to everything, but he stays unnamed, almost hidden in his own story. So when Peter asks, what about him, he's really asking something we all wonder, isn't he? Why does their calling seem easier? Why is my path filled with all this public struggle while their story just seems quieter, safer, more mysterious? It's a really raw moment of comparing destinies. And Jesus' answer is so cryptic, it actually sparked a rumor that lasted for years and years in the early church. In fact, the gospel writer himself has to jump in and set the record straight.
So the rumor mill started spinning. People really believed Jesus had promised this beloved disciple would never die. But the text is crystal clear. Jesus never said that, not at all. He just refused to satisfy Peter's curiosity about another person's calling. And the fact that this rumor had to be corrected, well, it reveals a really powerful truth for our own journey.
So here's the crucial point. God's plan for someone else is not your business. It's just not. He never promised to lay out the blueprint for every other person's life for you. He only promised to walk with you in yours. This whole moment reveals two profound yet very different models of what it means to be a disciple. We see two totally distinct paths, but they both lead to the same master. Just look at this contrast. On one hand, you have Peter. He represents the disciple called to suffer openly, a public martyr whose leadership is remembered for centuries. And then you have John. He represents the disciple who will endure, quietly. He lives a long life, he survives persecution, and then he just kind of fades from view. No dramatic public ending, just a lifetime of silent faithfulness. And here is the core truth we have to get. One path isn't better than the other. Peter's public martyrdom and John's quiet endurance are equally valid, equally faithful. Both of these disciples are absolutely essential to the story, and both of them belong completely to Christ. Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the passage, to the one command that just cuts through all the noise of our comparisons and all our confusion. So, how did Jesus actually answer Peter's question, what about him? His response is honestly one of the most liberating and challenging things you'll read in all of Scripture. Jesus basically says, look, his story is my business. Your story is to follow me. And in that one sentence, he just slams the door on comparison, on envy, on distraction. The command isn't to figure out everyone else's journey, it's just to walk your own. This ancient conversation speaks so directly into our world today, a world that is absolutely obsessed with being seen and being recognized. I mean, think about it. Our culture measures a calling by the size of the platform. It measures faith by the brightness of the spotlight. We value visibility and recognition above almost everything else. But Jesus, he offers a radically different way to measure things.
Christ's measure of a successful life, of true discipleship, is breathtakingly simple, and it has absolutely nothing to do with fame or influence.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Not build a platform for me, not become famous for me. Just follow me. Some are called to follow him to a cross, like Peter, And others are called to follow him through a long, quiet life of obedience, like John. The path might look totally different, but the command is exactly the same.
And this is such a word of hope for so many of us. If you feel overlooked, Christ sees you. If your calling feels small or insignificant, Christ honors it. If your story feels hidden from the world, just remember that the author of all stories is the one writing it.
Because when we shift our perspective to the end, to the final kingdom of Christ, all of our earthly comparisons are just going to melt away. Nobody's going to be asking why their path was harder or why their story was bigger.
This is the only question that's going to matter. Not were you known, but did you know me? Not were you seen, but did you follow me? The beloved disciple reminds us that faithfulness doesn't need a spotlight to be real. And so the invitation from this incredible, ancient story is just so simple and clear. Stop looking over your shoulder. Surrender the need to understand God's plan for everyone else. Fix your eyes on Jesus and just follow him. So let me leave you with this to think about. Does comparison ever steal your peace? I'd love to hear in the comments how you fight that urge to compare your journey to someone else's. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't a life of fame, it's a life of faithfulness to the one who calls you by name.